I never thought I'd find myself in this kind of mess. Honestly, I've always prided myself on being straightforward, trusting people until they gave me a damn reason not to. But now, all that trust feels like it's been shattered into tiny pieces I might never pick up again. Her name was Lisa. We met in college, and she seemed perfect back then. Bright, funny, kind of mysterious in that way that made you want to know more. We got married right after graduation, and for years I thought we were solid. She was the kind of woman who always looked good, long dark hair, sharp eyes, that confident smile. Everyone said she was meant for more than just a small-town life, but something changed when I got pregnant with our first kid. I was excited, nervous, practically glowing with anticipation. Lisa was supportive, or so I thought. She helped prepare the nursery, picked out names, even went to the doctor's appointments with me. I felt like I knew her inside out, or so I believed. One night I came home late from work, probably around 11 p.m., and I noticed the door to our bedroom was slightly ajar. I usually knocked first. But that night I didn't bother. I was exhausted and just wanted to check on her. As I pushed the door open, I froze in place. What I saw made my stomach drop so hard I thought I might vomit. There she was. Her back was to me, tangled under the sheets with my brother. His hand was on her waist, her head tilted back, eyes closed. I couldn't believe my eyes. My mind refused to process what I was seeing at first. I blinked, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure they could hear it. I stood there, rooted to the spot, watching the scene unfold in slow motion. The sheets shifted, her bare shoulder peeking out. The unmistakable scent of her perfume mixed with his aftershave hit my nose hard. My entire body went numb. All I could feel was a terrible, cold rage flooding through me. How long had this been going on? Was this a one-time thing? Or had they been sneaking around for months, maybe longer? The moment she looked up, her eyes meeting mine, the color drained from her face. She looked like a deer caught in headlights. My brother's face twisted into something guilty, but his eyes darted away like a coward. I saw the way her hand trembled as she tried to cover herself. I didn't say a word. I just turned around and walked out, my mind racing. Back in the living room, I sat down, tried to breathe through the chaos pounding in my chest. My hands were sweaty, palms slick. I gripped the edge of the coffee table so tight I thought I'd leave a dent. That night I stayed awake, replaying the scene over and over. How long had they been doing this? How come I never saw any signs? I started noticing strange little things, her late nights, her secretive texts, the way she'd suddenly become more distant, but I brushed it off. Maybe I was projecting. Now I sit here writing this, wondering how she managed to hide it all, how long she's been lying to my face. And most of all, I wonder if I ever really knew her at all. What kind of woman cheats when she's pregnant? What kind of man gives in? And what the hell do I do now? After that night, everything felt different, like I was living in a fog that refused to lift. I couldn't sleep. My mind kept circling back to that scene, trying to piece together how I missed all the warning signs. Deep down, I knew I couldn't pretend anymore, but confronting her right away felt impossible. I needed a plan, a way to find out exactly how long this had been going on and what it all meant. I started paying closer attention to her habits. She was still acting normal around me, smiling, pretending everything was fine. But I noticed little cracks in her facade. She'd suddenly become more secretive with her phone, always keeping it close, even hiding it when I entered the room. Her scent on her clothes was different, more masculine, with a faint trace of musk I didn't recognize. That alone made my stomach turn. One afternoon, I was tidying up the bedroom when I saw her purse on the bed. I hesitated, then casually reached in. My heart hammered in my chest as I found a crumpled receipt from a nearby hotel. I felt the adrenaline spike. I didn't even need to think. This was the confirmation I needed that they'd been sneaking around outside the house. I held the receipt in my hand, feeling a mixture of shock and fury. It was from 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks since I'd caught them in bed. What else had I missed? I wanted to scream, but I kept my cool. I knew I had to gather evidence, build a case before I did anything drastic. Over the next few days, I set up a few discreet surveillance measures. I borrowed a small voice recorder from a friend and left it in the bedroom, hidden among the pillows. I also kept a journal of her movements, times she was away, how she acted when I was around. Every detail felt like a drip of poison, slowly filling my mind with rage and betrayal. One night I decided to go through her phone. I knew it was risky, but I needed to see the messages, the calls, the little clues she left behind. I found texts from my brother. Nothing overtly explicit, but enough to tell me they'd been in contact regularly. Flirty messages, late-night check-ins. That was the moment I knew this was no accident or one-time slip. It was planned, intentional. She caught me scrolling through her phone as I was trying to hide the evidence. Her face turned white and she looked, what's the word? Guilty, yes, but also defiant. What are you doing? She demanded, voice trembling. I looked her straight in the eyes and said, I'm figuring out how long you've been lying to me. How long you've been cheating on me while I was pregnant, and I swear if you think you're going to get away with this, you're dead wrong. She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she looked away, biting her lip nervously. I saw her hand tremble. The betrayal cut so deep I could taste it. I had no idea how long I'd been living with a woman I no longer trusted. My entire world was crashing down around me, and I didn't know how to pick up the pieces. But I knew one thing: this wasn't going to end with her just saying sorry. I had to do something drastic, something to make her regret ever crossing me. I needed a revenge plan, one that would make her feel the weight of her actions without turning into a monster. I was angry, yes, but still sane enough to want her to pay for what she did. I sat there, staring. At her, my jaw clenched tight. You're going to wish you never crossed me, I said quietly but coldly, because I've got a plan, and it's only just beginning. The next morning, I woke up with a strange sense of clarity, like I'd finally crossed a line I didn't want to toe but absolutely had to. I'd spent so many nights replaying everything, trying to figure out how I'd missed all the signs, and now I was ready to act. It was time to turn the tables, to make her see that her betrayal wasn't just going to slide by quietly. First thing I did was gather everything I needed. I ordered a few hidden cameras, nothing obvious, just small ones I could hide in the house. I also set up a voice recorder, just in case I needed irrefutable proof. I knew this was risky, but I couldn't afford to leave anything to chance. I had to be strategic. I had to catch her in the act again, or at least get enough evidence to confront her with undeniable proof. That afternoon, I confronted her directly for the first time since discovering everything. I wanted her to know I was serious about finding out how long this had been going on. Lisa, I said calmly but with steel in my voice, we need to talk. I've been watching, listening. I want to know everything. How long has this been going on? Who else knows? She looked at me with wide eyes, her face pale. I don't know what you're talking about, she stammered, but her voice cracked under the weight of her own lies. I pulled out the evidence, her secret messages, the hotel receipt, the recordings I'd made. I let her see it all, one piece at a time. Her hands trembled and her eyes darted around the room, trying to find an escape. You've been lying to me this whole time, I said coldly. While I was pregnant, while I was vulnerable, you were in bed with my brother. How long has this been going on? Her voice was barely a whisper now. I don't know what to say, it just happened. No, it didn't, I cut her off. You planned it, you did this, and I swear I will make you regret it. I was seething but trying to keep my composure. I wanted her to see how much I was hurting, how much I was done trusting her. That night, I started putting my plan into motion. I already knew I couldn't just leave her. She needed to feel the consequences. I hired a private investigator to follow her, to see if she was still in contact with him. I left the house for a few hours, giving them room to do their thing. I also prepared some surprise evidence, an email from her to him saying she wanted to meet up, that she missed what they had. When I got back, I left everything in plain sight. A note on the table telling her I knew everything and that she'd better be ready for what was coming. I wanted her to realize all her secrets were exposed. I'd made sure the evidence was clear, undeniable. The look in her eyes when she saw the pile of proof, the shame, the panic, that was the real revenge. Knowing she couldn't hide anymore, that I was in control now. I didn't confront her immediately after. Instead, I waited. I watched her break down, silent tears, trembling hands, before I finally sat her down and told her that I was leaving, that I was filing for divorce, and that I was taking my child with me. I wanted her to feel the full weight of her betrayal, to see that I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. That was the moment I saw her crack completely. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Please, don't do this. I'll do anything." "No," I said firmly. "You lost that privilege a long time ago. You lied, you cheated, and I'm done. I want my life back." I handed her a folder with everything: proof, the divorce papers, the custody arrangement. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face, but I was already moving past her. I'd made my choice. I was done being the fool. The fallout was swift. Friends and family started hearing bits and pieces about what happened. Some were sympathetic, others horrified. But I didn't care. I'd made my decision. I handed over the keys to the house, packed my bags, and left without looking back. The house that once housed my family now felt like a prison I was finally escaping. Standing outside with the boxes, I looked back at the place that held so many memories. My chest ached, anger, betrayal, heartbreak all swirling together. But I knew that this pain was what I needed to finally move on. I had taken control, exacted my revenge. I'd shown her that her betrayal didn't go unpunished. As I drove away, the weight lifted a little. I realized I survived this hell, and I had a future to build. One where I wouldn't be blindsided anymore. One where I'd finally be the one in charge. And that, I told myself, was the real victory. The silence in the car was deafening. I hadn't spoken since I left the house, just stared out the window, feeling the ache in my chest intensify with each mile. The evidence I'd left behind, the folder, the keys, the divorce papers, felt like both a weight and a shield. I was finally taking control, but the aftermath was still settling into my bones. When I arrived at my new place, an apartment I found to start fresh, I finally allowed myself to breathe. The place was small, but it was mine. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and sat on the worn-out couch. The scent of fresh paint and cheap furniture hit me. And for a moment I thought about what I'd lost. My marriage, my trust, the picture of us I had in my mind. All gone, but I also felt a strange sense of relief. I wasn't the fool anymore. That evening I spent hours reflecting. I still couldn't believe how deeply she'd betrayed me, while I was carrying our child, no less. The betrayal cut so deep it felt like a physical wound. I kept replaying the scene in my mind, her face, the way her body stiffened when I caught her, the look of pure guilt and shame. I knew then that I had to keep my distance, that I couldn't let her pull me back into that chaos. I also reached out to a lawyer about custody. I didn't want to be biased, but I knew she would fight hard to keep the child. I had to get everything in order: proof of her infidelity, the recordings, the hotel receipts. I wanted to be prepared. I wasn't going to let her get away with lying to everyone, especially not to our child, if she tried to manipulate him or her into thinking I was the bad guy. But the question gnawed at me: what now? How do I rebuild from this? I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and a strange sense of empowerment. My body ached in places I didn't even notice at first. My hands still shook when I thought about her, and I couldn't help but picture her face, the way she looked, so defeated but also so damn guilty. I wanted to forget her, but part of me knew I'd never truly do that. I wanted justice. No, I needed closure. I called some friends, those who knew about the situation, and they listened without judgment. One of them said, "You did what you had to do. She betrayed you badly, but you're still standing. That's what matters." I appreciated that. At least someone saw my side clearly. I told them what I planned next: moving on, starting over, focusing on my kid. But here's the thing. I wasn't just going to forget her or pretend I was okay. I wanted her to feel the pain I'd gone through, and I'd do that in my own way. I wasn't the kind of guy to burn bridges just because I was angry, but I was definitely going to make her regret ever crossing me. I'd set a precedent: don't mess with my family or I'll make damn sure you pay. The night was long. I lay on the unfamiliar mattress, staring at the ceiling, trying to process everything. I felt hollow, tired, yet strangely stronger. I knew it was going to take time, the kind of time that mends wounds or makes them worse depending on how you handle it. I was resolved to move forward, but with a clear eye. She'd broken the trust, yes, but I'd be damned if I let her destroy my life completely. That's when I realized I'd have to reclaim my sense of self, not just for me, but for my kid. No matter what, I'd keep fighting to be a good father, to show him or her that even when life threw you into hell, you could claw your way out. And I'd start that right now. The days that followed felt like walking through a fog, each one blending into the next, filled with legal appointments, phone calls, and sleepless nights. I was trying to hold myself together, but honestly, it was a struggle. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, the betrayal like a tattoo etched into my brain. Still, I knew I couldn't drown in it. I had to keep moving for me and for the kid I was fighting to keep. The custody hearing was set for 2 weeks out. I spent every spare moment preparing my case, gathering every shred of evidence I had, texts, receipts, recordings. I wanted to show that I was capable of being a good father, even amid the chaos she'd created. I didn't want her to manipulate the situation. I wanted it to be fair, based on facts, not just feelings. In the meantime, I started making changes, getting healthier, working out, forcing myself to sleep when I could. I also found a counselor who specialized in infidelity and divorce. Talking to her was like finally opening a door I'd kept slammed shut. I cried a little, screamed a little, but most of all, I started to understand that I wasn't alone in this. One evening I called her, my voice calm but cold. I wanted to hear what she'd say, to see if she'd try to manipulate or apologize. She answered, voice trembling. "I'm sorry, I never meant for any of this to happen. I was confused and I was weak. Please, can we talk?" I took a deep breath and said, "No, I've already made up my mind. If you want to talk, it's through the lawyers. I don't want to hear your excuses anymore. I just want my kid and I want this nightmare to be over." The silence that followed was deafening. I knew she was probably crying, begging, trying to fix what she'd broken. But I wasn't interested in apologies. I wanted justice. That night I sat alone in my new place, feeling the weight of everything. I'd come so far, and yet I still felt raw, like my skin had been peeled back and exposed to the cold. But a small voice inside said I had to keep fighting. For my dignity. For the future I deserved. The courtroom day finally arrived. I wore my best suit, feeling like I was walking into a war I couldn't lose. The judge listened patiently as I laid out my case, proof of her infidelity, my dedication to my child, her lack of stability during the pregnancy. She, in turn, looked contrite but unconvincing. Her words were hollow, filled with half-truths and excuses. When the judge asked her about the evidence, her voice faltered. I was confused. It was a mistake. I love my family, I swear," the judge cut her off. "Mrs. Name, your actions speak louder than words. Your husband has presented substantial proof of your betrayal. This court finds that the best interest of the child is served by awarding custody to the father." I felt a rush of relief that was almost overwhelming. A victory, yes, but an empty one in so many ways. As I left the courthouse, I felt a strange mixture of exhaustion and hope. I'd fought hard and won, but the scars remained. Still, I knew I'd taken back control. I handed the keys to the apartment to my lawyer, who would handle the final paperwork. I took a deep breath and looked ahead. One thing I knew for certain: I'd never let a woman betray me like that again. Trust was a fragile thing, and I'd learned the hard way that you have to protect it. But I also learned that sometimes you have to take matters into your own hands to get justice, and I was finally doing just that, moving forward. I'd rebuild, stronger, smarter, and more cautious. Because betrayal like this doesn't just break your heart, it forces you to redefine yourself. And I was ready for that. Sitting here now, years later, I still think about that chapter of my life like it's burned into my mind, an indelible scar that reminds me how fragile trust can be. I never wanted to be that guy who retaliates out of anger alone, but I also knew I had to protect myself, my child, and my dignity from the chaos she brought into our lives. The aftermath wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Looking back, I realize how much I changed because of it. I became more cautious, yes, but also more self-aware. I learned to value honesty and integrity in ways I never paid attention to before. She shattered the illusion I once had about trust, about love, about what a marriage was supposed to be. But I also found a new strength I didn't think I had. I fought for my peace and I won. Today, I see my kid growing up with a stability I never thought I'd be able to give him after everything. We're not perfect, but we're healing. And I've come to understand that sometimes you have to go through hell to find your way out. That betrayal doesn't define you, how you respond does. I handed over the final paperwork, signed, sealed, and filed. The house, the memories, the pain, they're all behind me now. I've got a fresh start, a new life where I control the narrative. No more secrets, no more lies, just honesty, a little bit of hard-earned wisdom, and a lot of hope. One thing I tell everyone who's been through something similar is this: trust is precious, but it's also fragile. When it's broken, you have two choices: let it destroy you or rebuild smarter and stronger. I chose the latter, and I'll keep choosing it every damn day. Betrayal cuts deep, no doubt, but in the end, it's what you do with that pain that truly defines you. I'll never forget what happened, but I refuse to let it keep me down. Life is too short for that. Instead, I'll carry this lesson as a shield, not a burden. And I hope anyone reading this who's been betrayed finds the strength to do the same. Because no matter how dark things get, trust me, there's always a way out.